I'm spending the weekend over here at my grandparents' house, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to test out my newest piece of equipment. So I've been wanting to be able to move my e-bike around so I can go on trails that aren't next to my house. So now that my Subaru Crosstrek has a hitch receiver on it, I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to try out a new bike rack for my e-bike.
I immediately assembled my bike rack from this box of parts I received in the mail and threw it on the back of my car. Put my e-bike on the back and hit the road. This was going to be about a 450-mile road trip right away with no experience testing out this e-bike rack. Of course, this was a holiday weekend, so I managed to get myself stuck in traffic for hours, going across Snoqualmie Pass from western Washington to eastern Washington. This time of year, it's very busy, and any accident on this pass really stops traffic up because it's fairly remote. There's no easy way to clear cars off the road. But at least it was a beautiful drive. The clouds were moving in from western Washington where it was cold and wet, and the mountains were stopping them from going over to eastern Washington where it was warm and sunny. So there was lots of rain and pretty clouds to look at while I was very slowly driving across the pass. Eventually things cleared up though, and I was able to start moving down the highway at normal highway speeds. But again, this was a holiday weekend, so everyone was out on the road. I was checking in the rearview mirror periodically to make sure that my bike was still attached to my car and it wasn't moving around too much. It was sticking out a bit on one side especially, but it was also sticking out a little bit on the other because the bike is actually longer than my car is wide. After an unusually long 6-hour road trip to my grandparents' house, I checked on the bike and the bike rack and nothing shifted. Everything looked exactly like it should be.
So let me take you through what we have here. So obviously there's the bike. This rack is actually meant for e-bikes, so it has 80-pound capacity on each of these positions. I don't think my trailer hitch receiver can actually withstand quite that much weight if I had two of my size e-bikes on it, but if you have a bigger car, you probably could do that. You can see it fits in really nicely. So you can use this knob to loosen up these tire holders, and you can adjust it to whatever dimensions your bike requires. You can see that these tire holders have a little pocket here, which is used for tying down the tire like this. So it comes with these straps, and that very securely attaches your bike to the rack. And so the back side is basically the same as the front side. They're identical. This center post here comes up, and you can see this is a piece that grabs onto the bike frame. So I have a fairly wide bike frame, and you can see even with my wide bike frame it grabs on very nicely. Again, it comes with a tie down strap here so that you can really securely attach it to the frame. And again, these clamps are just held on by some knobs that you can loosen up and adjust to whatever height you need. So actually attaching the bike to the bike rack is, at least conceptually, very simple. I had a little bit of troubles getting it up onto the bike rack, but that's probably because of lack of experience, not because there's anything wrong with the bike rack itself. So I'm gonna try to actually take my bike off of the bike rack right now, and we'll see how it goes. This is going to be my first time attempting this. biggest thing that made a difference, that made it easier to get the bike off, was actually taking those hooks off. Once those were off, it actually came off really easily. It's just everything was getting caught up on those hooks, which I guess they're doing their job. Okay, so now you can see what the rack looks like without the bike on it. It's a pretty simple design. One of the cool things about it is that you can unlock it in a couple of places. So there's the pin here and there's a pin there. And I'll show you what those things do. So especially with this hook here, it's actually very difficult to open the trunk because it, hits the hook. And if you have a bike there, obviously it's going to be completely impossible to open the trunk. But they thought of that. So what you do is you take this pin out right here, and this entire thing folds back. And this does actually work even with the bike on it. I tried it with the bike on it earlier. And now you can open up the trunk. So now let's check out some of the other pins. So you can remove this pin right here, which allows you to fold down this piece. And then you can put the pin in like that. So now it will stay in place. And now that it's in that position, obviously it gives you a little bit better rear visibility, but what it really lets you do is remove this pin, and then the entire thing folds up like so. And now that it's in that position, it's pretty much out of the way, and it's almost like you don't have a bike rack, except of course you can't open the trunk in this car because it still interferes with the trunk. Well, now that that's all folded up and I have my bike off of my car, I can go for a ride out here 450 miles away from home. So there are a couple of things that I decided I really wanted to do to simplify my operation here. So the first thing was I wanted to remove one of the positions for a bike because I only have one bike and there's only one of me. So I don't really need two positions for the bike rack. So after a little bit of massaging, I managed to get both of those off. And the next thing I decided to do was to leave the center post down while I put the bike on the bike rack because I figured that would be a whole lot easier just picking it up and setting it onto the bike rack. And so that's what I did. It was a little bit of a struggle, but nowhere near as bad as what I was trying to do before. But once the bike was on the bike rack, it only took a couple of seconds to put the center post back up, put the clamp on, and the bike was pretty much ready to be tied down. Tying it down was actually really simple once the bike was on the rack. The included tie downs are actually very easy to use, and you just have to loop them through and tighten them up. That's all there is to it. I tested the rack to make sure everything was tightened down, and I put it in the folded position so I could close the trunk, and I was good to go. So overall, I am very pleased with the performance of this bike rack. It's well built, and I like this configuration that I have set up here. It's easy to use and perfect for me. Link in the description below.